to them. That's what's very interesting right there. It's the poor that have the gospel preached to them, not just of physical world prosperity, not just of temporal prosperity, you understand, but of triune prosperity, prosperity in spirit, prosperity in soul, prosperity physically, in body, in health, so forth and so on. Where a lot of these churches go counterfeit is because of the love of money. This so-called Baptist Whitney whining Baptist preacher, he said something to the effect that like this church ain't no place for poor people. Like what? You know, speechless. All that we can say is, get how you get this. In other words, may the Lord rebuke you. May you be rebuked. Because you're trying to take the body of Moses away from the people. What's the body of Moses? It's Torah. The body of Moses is Torah. Trying to take the Torah away from the people. Why? Because death reigned from Adam to Moses. What? How could, wait, if death reigned from Adam to Moses, this is what the Bible teaches. Death reigned from Adam, okay, the tree incident and the Eve incident, the serpent incident, right, all one incident. You know, they all were guilty in different degrees, but they all were guilty, you understand? And so death was appointed, you understand? And he didn't live out his day. Adam didn't live 1,000 years. You know, a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years. He was 900 and change. You understand? But he fell just short of that one day of 1,000 years. So death came into the world, right? Because in the beginning, man, or Zakar Wenekebal, or Wendenasate, the male and the female in Genesis chapter 1, they were made in the image and after the likeness of Ha-Elohim. So therefore, Ha-Elohim dieth not. No provision for death or the dead came in at that time. After Adam, you understand, the Afar, the one from the Afar in Genesis chapter 2, this is where death comes in. But then the Bible teaches and says that death reigned. The key word is reigned. Now the word reign doesn't mean that death was around. You know, reign doesn't mean that was on the block, you know, or was in the neighborhood. No, reign means to rule as king. To rule as king. So death reigned, the Bible teaches, from Adam, right? From Adam to Moses. Now, I just want to find that you could, forgive me, some of y'all might know this verse. You understand? But I got a lot I want to share with I and give thanks. We have these things here to use as reference to sharpen our swords. Romans 5 and 14. Romans 5 and 14. Right? Romans 5 and 14. Let's just put it right here. Romans 5 and 14 and put a little star right there. Romans 5 and 14. And let's get the verse for a moment. So I want you to get the verse, and then you can study the scripture, the fuller context of it. You understand? We don't want to send you with just one verse, you understand, and just go with our ideas, but focus on what we both can learn. Some things we already know, but we always look forward to learning. Here it's speaking of through death, through Adam, sin and death. It says from verse 12 to 14, wherefore, as by one man sin, Chatiyat, missing the mark, entered into the world, and death by sin, by Chatiyat. And so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned. For until the law, sin, Chatiyat, was in the world. For until the law, sin was in the world. But sin, Chatiyat, is not imputed where there is no law. In other words, sin is not imputed, right? Sin is not imputed where there is no law. So if there is no law, there is no imputation. Nevertheless, death reigned from Adam to Moses, even over them that had not sinned after the similitude of Adam's transgression. So death reigned over all, even those who had not done, in other words, the same type of disobedience that Adam, that their ancestor had done. Who is the figure? Who is the figure of him that was to come? So he is the figure, he's a likeness of the one who is to come after. Who's to come after. Now, there's a footnote right over here. There's actually a three-part footnote right here. The first sin, now sin is chatiyat. Chatiyat, matat, means to lack. In the 23rd Psalm, it says, that the sustainer is my shepherd. I will not, there's nothing that causes me. There's nothing or no one which causes me to lack or to miss something. You know, and that is interesting because we have learned that where the tricks of the enemy, this whole seduction and selling of souls business goes down, is where people, when people feel some sort of a lack, you know, people feel, and see, they may feel this sort of a lack, but usually it's a product of this sinful world. You know, those people who feel they're not beautiful enough because they were always told that they look like this, or they was always told that, you know, they'll never be nothing. You know, and in the black community, there's a lot of that. Always told that you ain't no good. You know, like one has a light-skinned child, a dark-skinned child. The dark-skinned child is going to be told that they lack what the so-called light-skinned child has. And now niggas are doing it monetarily. You understand? Or if one is more of a slave, a captive, and they get paid more so-called money than the other one now gets a lack. So a lot of these social psychotic behaviors, you understand, are not what the Almighty created, but is a part of man-made society, is a part of what man, and this is interesting. None of this is written on the trees or the rocks or anywhere, but somehow it's in man's heart and mind, and it gets to be passed on from generation to generation. Now, when it gets passed on from generation to generation, this brings us back to the point, bam, right here, it becomes a generational curse. You see what I'm saying? It becomes a generational curse. And when we look at the law, or what's called the law, which is the so-called 10 commands, but more correctly, it is the 10 words forming one command. It says something very interesting in verse 5, Exodus 20 and 5. Got rightly divide the word, going forward to Romans just now. It says, thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, to these idols, to these idols of wood or stone or you know, even celebrity. Celebrity today and fame today is like the idol. It's like the big idol. You know, like the Oscars. Isn't that something? All these people foaming at the mouth and chomping at the bit. You understand? To get an Oscar. But an Oscar is an idol. And then they want to talk about, you know, I mean, it is crazy, right? And thou shalt not bow down thyself to them nor serve them. You hear some of these people say, I would do anything to get an Oscar. Anything. Remember when the child molestation accusations against Michael Jackson was circulating? There were some comedians that said that they would sleep or have sex or be, I guess they were males, homosexually, you know, sexed, if you call it that, you know, abominated, you know, by Michael Jackson to get some of that money. You know, and are these people mad? Yes, they are mad. You understand? But they're suffering something that's called, in biblical science, generational curse, or PTSD, post-traumatic slave disease or disorders. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them nor serve them. You notice the key word there? Don't bow down, not just physically, you understand? But don't bow down. Don't bow your God-given, you understand, heart and mind aligned with the testimony of Christ to them for their worldly, seclorum, material things. Nor serve them in that same cause. For I, Yahweh, thy Elohim, am a zealous, it says jealous, but we've gone through this already. Jealous is a negative feminine spirit, while zeal, zealousness, with the Z, is a positive one. For I, the Lord thy God, am a zealous God, visiting the iniquity. Iniquity means rebellion. That means that they don't want to go Jah's way. And what we saw in this Baptist church has gotten exposed for all the world to see. You know, we didn't see too much of it at the time, but, you know, we've been catching more and more portions of it. You know, it was kind of a long thing. I don't know if we're going to sit down and watch the whole thing at one gallop, but we saw different parts of it. And we said, what kind of a funeral is this? You know, where did they get this from? You know what I mean? Is that how you do it in the Baptist church? I can't wait till you come to the Church of Christ. You know, the Church of God in Christ is not the Church of God in the Baptist. You know, for I, the Lord thy God, am a zealous God, visiting the iniquity, the rebellion of the fathers upon the children, to the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and shewing mercy to thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. You know what's interesting? A lot of these false, counterfeit, and forsaking God, they're not really God forsaken, but they are forsaking God. You understand? And because they first are forsaking God, then they become God forsaken, of course. But it's because of their act and not some angry God. You know what I mean? Jah don't have to be angry. It says Jah laugh upon them because he sees their day is coming. You understand? Jah's only sad for those poor lost sheep that get caught up in their snare. You know, but Jah is able to make all things, you know, all things right and exact and just in his will. You understand? But this idea of keeping the commandments is not just Old Testament. We can go straight to John's epistle, where it says if one love God, they keep his commandment. You understand? So what's the difference? Christ said, I haven't come to like abolish the law, but I come to fulfill it. You know what I mean? So they're lying to you. I mean, on so many different levels, even the eating pork. You know, some of you are maybe pork eaters. I hope not. You know, but some of the curious ones that might so-called have not stumbled, but happened on this video, you know, even those things violate the dietary laws. And why do you think you got so many Christians who are suffering the same diseases as the spiritual Egyptians, as the spiritual sodomites? They're suffering because they eat and live like a Gentile. You understand? They believe that they're a Gentile, you know, and their spiritual authorities have so hoodwinked, bamboozled, and distracted them from sound doctrine, And as we said, once the so-called black churches turned away from the true identity of black people, which was a compromise with Massa, you know, not wanting to tell the black people who they are, the Ethiopian connection, the Israelite and the Hebrew root and truth, not wanting to tell them those things and not telling them only in little whispers here and there. You never rarely see a preacher preaching on that and showing the connection. Maybe prayerfully, some of them will get their acts right before it's too late, because we don't know when it's going to be too late. You understand? It may be too late before we do this video, finish this video. It may be too late by the time we upload the video. You understand? And maybe too late by the time you're seeing it. Who knows? But while there is time, you understand? We've got to redeem the time, because the days are kuful. The days are evil. So